Today, on Be Something Wonderful, the only thing that's keeping your desires from manifesting now. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. Powerful video this morning. This comes from a session yesterday, and it really relates also to the video that we did yesterday. And I want to, I'm going to put a link there because we even talked about that. He had watched that video during the day. I want to talk about this client that was imagining himself on a date with this coworker that he was interested in, this woman of interest, right? And he was imagining it. He was affirming it. He had an imaginal scene. He was getting into the reality that he was at. He just wanted to manifest a date with her. So he manifested that they were at lunch or dinner. And he felt it real. But he kept telling, as we were talking, he kept telling the story of her not noticing him. And I said, you just keep telling that same story. Indirectly or directly, that's the story you're telling. And I said, instead, start telling the story of her noticing you. In other words, it's not her not noticing you. It's you not noticing her noticing you. I said, she's noticing you. But he goes, no, she doesn't appear to be. I go, because that's what you're assuming. That's how you're looking at the world. Start telling the story of her noticing you. It's you not noticing her noticing you. That's what's going on. You're telling the story of separation from your desires. You're telling the story of her not noticing you, right? And it's really just you not noticing that she is noticing you. Start telling that story, right? Because here he was, right? This really goes into what we were talking about with yesterday's video. Walking through the 3D reality, lighting up that imagined future. All frames, remember, past, present, and future, are being created right now. All of those are lit up as you light up that future. You're lighting up all frames. So, but what happens as you tell the story, as he told the story of her not noticing him, he created a past of her never noticing him. A recent past of her not noticing him, and a present situation or identity of her not noticing him. See, the identity and in the realities and frames are constantly changing. They're constantly moving. They're constantly potential. But as you do that, you're trying, he was trying to notice her noticing him or them on a lunch date, but he kept telling that story. So that frame moved into the present. That same reality, that same version of him, of her not noticing him, becomes his reality, right? That becomes your identity or reality in all time. That identity of her not noticing him. No matter how much he imagines, no matter how much he affirms. Right? Remember, your new story changes your identity and your reality in all time, all frames. It changes the past, present, and future based on the story you're telling. In other words, he's noticing you. Notice that she's noticing you. Notice that she's noticing you. Tell that story. And then when you tell that new story, then the past frames, that's who you are and who you were. You become that new identity where she was always, look at all past frames, noticing you. And that she's noticing you now. And that she loves to notice you. Finally, here's what happened. This is why he set up this follow-up appointment, this follow-up session. She asked him out to lunch. She decided not to wait. She talked about, she goes, I don't know what you're waiting for. It's clear that we're interested in each other. What she was saying is, it's clear that we're noticing each other. He was not noticing her, noticing him. This is so cute, cool. Clearly interested in each other, right? Remember, when he changed that story and he started noticing her and noticing him, right? It changed all time. She had to ask him out. Yeah, he could have asked her out, but she moved. So this is cool. So let's go to this. So what we got into yesterday, a lot of things with him, but But really to tell him whatever he desires, because we're talking about some new desires with money, a house, and all this kind of stuff. The only thing that ever is keeping your desires or desire from manifesting now is your assumption of separation from it. That's all. That's all it could ever be. How could you be? Because desiring without moving to the occupation of that desire, without moving to the unity with it, implies separation. Stop telling the story of separation, in other words. Stop telling the story of time gone by, waiting, no movement in 3D. Stop telling that story. Tell the story that it's unfolding. Tell the story that you see reality from that standpoint, that there's a greater reality unfolding, right? That the unseen's becoming seen. The greater the sense of separation, the longer it appears to take to manifest in 3D reality. That's what you're experiencing, right? The greater that sense of separation from what you want translates into what we believe is it's taking longer. It appears to take longer to manifest in time in that 3D experience. In other words, the change in the changeless reality appears to, quote, take longer. Do you see it? There's only one energy, one source, one substance, and all change, all forms, all manifestations take place within this changeless, formless, unmanifest reality. And so when you're applying separation, you can't change what you're separate from. You can't experience what you're separate from. It can't change. So if you feel separate from it, you have no influence, no control over it. Do you see it? The same with 3D conditions, right? Unless you're one with your reality, then how can you expect to influence it? Right? Do you see? There's only one energy, and all change comes from within that one. All the forms come within the formless. All the manifests come within the unmanifest. It's the first and only cause and only source of reality. So you can't create or manifest what's not already there, what's not already yours, what's not already within you. So no matter what it is, what those conditions are, what those desires are, you can't create, manifest, or influence what's not already there, what's not already within you, what's not already yours, right? You are only ever experiencing, seeing, perceiving, creating, and manifesting contents of your own consciousness. And I put your own here because it's just consciousness. You don't own any of it, right? You're one with it. It's the one consciousness, right? It's everybody's consciousness. But in your view, in other words, your awareness as awareness. That's what I mean by that. You're only ever experiencing, seeing, perceiving, creating, and manifesting the contents of your own consciousness. In other words, your awareness as awareness of being, with a capital A. Your awareness of that awareness of being, as awareness. Your awareness as the awareness of being. Do you hear that? That's powerful. When you feel or have a sense of separation, separate from your desires and 3D manifested conditions, you're implying there's a secondary or other cause or other source, something outside of all that is, or God. And that's impossible. That's why Scripture says, I am God and there is no other. When you feel or even have a sense of separation from your desires or from the 3D manifested conditions, like there's something happening outside of you that you have no control of, you're implying there's some secondary cause, there's some second source, something outside of you, something outside of God or all that is. And that's impossible. That's why Scripture clearly says, I am God and there is no other. So remember, you can't control or shape or have power over that from which you feel separate. I'm going to say this again. You cannot control or shape or have power over that from which you feel separate. Impossible. Because now you're not one with it. Now it's not within you, right? When you do, those conditions and desires appear to control you. When you feel that separation, that's what it feels like life's happening to me, right? It's happening through you. It's like happening as you. It is you, right? Reality seems to be working against you. That's what some of you have said to me, right? Remember, this is why Jesus said to Pilate, and remember, Pilate representing conditions, desires, the outside world, all of that. You could have no power at all against me unless it had been given to you from above. So it's not like anything's working against you. Nothing has power against you at all unless it's given from above, that I am, the one and only power, source, and substance. If you're one with it, you have all control. There is no outside world or outside conditions or a Pontius Pilate wreaking havoc on your reality. You're the one and only power. You're the one and only source. So in order to effectively create the layer of your world, this is a quote from Reality Transurfing today. In order to effectively create the layer of your world, you have to feel a sense of oneness with it. Even identify yourself with it. And this is interesting. He's not saying identify yourself as it. He's saying with it, right? Identify yourself with that world, right? Accept it as one quantum possibility, right? It doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Accept it as one possibility and then call forth your reality. You have to have a sense of oneness with it. So you are not I want to make sure when he says identify with it, and not as it. What's the meaning there? That you're the awareness within which these forms take place, within which these desires are manifested, within which these conditions take place. You are not your desires or 3D conditions, but the awareness in which they are experienced. You are the awareness in which they take place, in which that you have that experience of reality. You are one with them, but you're greater than them at the same time. So you're one with them. You're not them, but you're greater with them at the same time because they take place within your awareness. Without your awareness, they can't be. That's what it means by the Father and I are one, but the Father is greater than I. The one with them, but greater than them at the same time. The conceiver in it is greater than its conceptions. The conceiver and its conceptions are one, but the conceiver is greater. The creator and his creations are one, but the creator is ever greater. That's what that means. Your true identity is I am awareness and can identify with or be one with any of the infinite states. Do you see it? Your true identity is I am awareness, the awareness of being. And you can be one with or identify with or choose to occupy an infinite number of states, desires, or conditions within this awareness. You can occupy any of these within that awareness of being, but be forever greater, hear this is the big point, but at the same time, as you choose and occupy and identify with any desire or state or condition, you at the same time, you're forever greater and unchanged by any state, by any desire or any condition. You're the awareness within which all of that takes place. This is big today. It was a big discussion yesterday with this client. What's the secret to fast, instant, or almost instant manifestations in 3D reality? We got into this question yesterday in the session, right? Because we're talking about, there's lots of stories where the 48-hour challenge, someone manifested something, or another client or subscriber, while they were focused on it, they got an email or a text from their SP or a specific person, or even in sessions, while we're in a session, something happens, right? Something clicks, they get it, or they have a 10-minute manifestation like that other client. What's happening here? Why is that? Well, remember, what's happening is for any manifestation, in 3D reality, for any instant manifestation, there's an absolute unity of heart and mind. In other words, there's a unity of the mind, your intention, your desire, your will to have or be something, your conscious intention, right, as you direct that, your assumptions, and then with the heart, that all power, that all potential, that all unity, that creative substance of God, that spontaneous deductive, meaning there's no external source, no other cause. And deductive means it accepts whatever you consciously impress, whatever you consciously assume. This beingness, this power, this all potential, this all unity accepts it. And that's what makes it powerful. It doesn't reject, it can't decide, no, that's not a good idea. It accepts whatever you consciously assume and brings it forth. And its power lies in its unity. It doesn't feel separate from anyone. That's what impersonal means. That impersonal power means it doesn't feel separate from anything or anyone. But that's what gives it all the power. Because it can see all circumstances, all conditions. It has the power and resources of infinity to deliver what you want right now. That's what instant manifestation. So you're having an instant unification of your mind, heart and mind, right? Where there's no doubt, there's no fear, right? Remember, the mind directs, but it doesn't create. The heart, that greater beingness, creates but doesn't direct. It creates because it doesn't. The mind sees separation. The heart doesn't see separation. The mind wants to figure things out. The heart knows. Do you see it? And when these join, though, one can't do anything. The heart, though, is not going to bring anything forth unless you consciously direct it or intend it. Right? It will just follow your subjective tendencies, whatever those are. Right? So that's what's going on here, right? Without your conscious attention, without your conscious direction, yeah, you'll create things, but it will be according to your subjective tendencies. You can do both. Remember, together, the heart and mind are capable. This is what Vadim Zeland says from reality transurfing. Together, the heart and mind are capable of almost anything. They're actually capable of anything, right? Because their merging generates the magical power of outer intention. He calls this power, this God consciousness, outer intention. That can't be directed without your inner intention, without your assumptions. So he distinguishes he calls the power of intent, he calls it the power of intention. Right? But what is the energy of intention, or the power of intention, the energy of intention? It's source energy. But that source energy needs to be directed by you consciously. Right? But that is source energy. There's no separation ever. Right? So you're directing that. So he's talking about inner intention, meaning that will to direct things, that will to desire something or assume something. The questions are your assumptions limited or unlimited? That's going to determine your experience. And then outer attention as that power, as that great source that doesn't, but has to be directed, right? It will just be all over the place, right? It will create whatever your subjective tendencies are. Right? Your subjective tendencies. So that's powerful. He calls it inner intention and outer intention. Right? But source energy, all of it is source energy. Reality transurfing calls it the energy of intention. Meaning inner intention, your assumptions, your conscious assumptions, your conscious will to be, do, or have something. Right? And then outer intention, that greater force, that greater God consciousness. Right? That brings things forth. That is the total unity of all that is. That has all of infinity to choose from, to bring forth your manifestations instantly, right? Inner intention of the mind, outer intention of the heart. When unified, it translates into a 3D sensation of higher energy levels. Sometimes these are felt, sometimes these are not felt. But remember, it translates into higher energy levels. But you're always source energy. You're always that highest energy. But because of our 3D experience, it doesn't always feel that way. So when you unify your heart and mind, you have that experience of that high energy level, being that one source, right? That enables instant or fast manifestations of your desires in 3D reality. That's what you've been seeing. That's what you've been seeing sometimes in coaching sessions, sometimes in the sessions when they say something clicked. They get this burst of anomalous energy. Like something new has occurred to them. And then, boom, their intention manifests. That's what's happening. The higher your energy level, the faster your desires are manifest in physical reality. This is what Vadim Zeland says. When the energy of the cosmos passes through your human body, it is programmed by their thoughts and acquires ordered form. In other words, source energy, you are source energy. But there's an experience of it running through your body, right? The higher energy, the faster. In other words, the more the burst of that energy, of that feeling, that source, that alignment of mind and heart, or heart and mind, the faster things manifest. In other words, source energy, that one emotion, is put through filters of thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions that then acquire form in 3D reality. That's what Vadim Zeland's saying here. He's saying when the energy of the cosmos, that pure beingness, passes through the human body, it is programmed by their thoughts and acquires ordered form. Or in other words, it's put through those thoughts and assumptions, those filters, and they acquire form in 3D reality according to your filters. Higher energy level is equal to your conviction, to your knowing. It's no resistance. That's what we really mean. As you line up with that conviction and absolute knowingness, That's the high energy level of source, the only high energy level there is. So Vadim Zeland goes, or this is what actually Neville Goddard, Vadim Zeland says, and then I want to talk about Neville Goddard here. Vadim Zeland says this: in order to form a reflection, it is essential that there be a sharp image born of unity of heart and mind, or a relatively lengthy period of deliberately concentrating one's attention. In other words, in order to form that reflection on the other side of the mirror, right? You create that image within. You create that, you intend something. Creation's finished. You light up that frame of what you want. But in order it to be a reflection on the other side of the mirror, in other words, manifest in 3D reality, the mirror reality that he talks about, right? The dual mirror. One side's the metaphysical image, or what you're lighting up, that frame that I've talked about earlier in this lesson, right? And then the physical manifestation of that, the reflection in 3D reality. It must be a sharp image. How is that sharp image made? By unifying your heart and mind. Or what he says, a relatively lengthy period of, again, this is his beliefs, deliberately concentrating one's attention. In other words, persisting in your wish fulfilled and returning to it frequently to your desired end, what Neville Goddard says. Lengthy period is his opinion. It's just a way to put it in time. But it doesn't have to be lengthy. You could persist in your wish fulfilled. It can manifest tomorrow, right? As you get that alignment. But here it is. Here you are in your 3D experience. As you light up that future frame, what you want to be. And you can see all frames are in play. All frames are lit up, past, present, and future. As you unify your heart and mind, as you let go of doubt and fear and just let that be there, let your 3D self sulk in its disbelief and line up with that knowingness as source. Line up with your heart and that beingness. Then these frames come together. One over the other, they coalesce into this new identity. You see that? You form this new identity in this new reality, right? This new manifested reality. That's what happens. It manifests, it coalesces, it forms in 3D reality. As a result, the metaphysical potential reality is made manifest on the physical side of the mirror. And the thought is realized materially. He's talking about thoughts. As you imagine that, do you see that? As you align your heart and mind, that's cool. Let's take a look here. A client or subscriber having a fast or instant or almost instant manifestation after a session or watching a video, what's going on? This was his question. This great client yesterday. And remember, even Vadim Zeland talks about it as an anomalous burst of energy. Because I know there are people talking about there's videos out there. One of my clients pointed out that some coaches suggest to do anomalous actions. Actions that put you in a new environment. Nothing wrong with that, right? When doing something completely new, something exhilarating, something thrilling. It gives you that sensation, that 3D sensation of that anomalous burst of energy or of source. So it's good. If you want to take anomalous action, do it. Trying something completely new, something you've never did, a new environment, a new thing, right? This source energy plus the new unexpected information, right? Because it's your source energy. Working with this new unexpected information, this anomalous burst of energy, creates that immediate unity of heart and mind, bringing your desire and intention into material manifested form. That's what's happening. Something hits them, they have this anomalous burst of energy. They have this anomalous event within them. They thought about something in a different way. They had something we discussed in the session or something that was discussed in the video hits them in a different way. It hits them differently. And then they get this anomalous burst of energy that aligns them up with their source, right? They start seeing things or knowing things in a new and unexpected way. That creates immediate unity with your heart and mind. That brings your desired intention into material form fast or almost instantly. That's what you've been seeing. And this is what Vadim Zeland says, reality transurfing. An anomalous burst of energy opens the conscious mind to sectors of the alternative space that lie at great distance from those that are currently realized materially. Remember, the alternative space, he's talking about infinity, God consciousness, that great reality that contains all frames, the film roll archive, that's what he's talking about there. And he's saying that anomalous burst of energy, that information, something we discussed or something they saw in the video, opened up their conscious mind to something in that alternative space that seemed far away before. But remember, it's not, when Vadim Zeland says at a great distance, he's not talking about physical distance. There is no time. There is no space. He's talking about the distance mentally, the distance with your assumptions, the distance with your limitations or doubtful thoughts or fears, right? What happens is you drop all those doubts, you drop all those fears. You have this burst of energy, this burst of believing, this burst of knowing. It's beyond believing. This burst of knowing, going to that complete knowing that moves you to that manifested reality that seemed like a great distance before that happens. Remember, this is not physical distance, it's mental distance. Right? And again, there's some talk about taking anomalous action. There's videos on, take the anomalous action challenge. But that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can move there now with an anomalous burst of energy, a thought, without taking any physical action of something different, something that moves you in the videos or wherever you get that from. Right? You essentially, what happened here, and with all of these clients, they essentially suspended disbelief. And they unified their heart and mind immediately, and they manifested their heart's desire instantly or almost instantly, or within 48 hours or a few days. That's what's going on there. So remember, here are the takeaways. There's a lot. But assume, announce, declare your oneness with ultimate reality, because it's only separation, that thought of separation, that keeps it from manifesting instantly or fast. Right? Because remember, that burst of energy, that anomalous burst of energy, closes that gap, and you feel that oneness with reality. Right? Something clicks, and you feel one with God, one with your higher self, one with your I am. Right? Be willing to believe that all things are possible with God. In other words, your story is reality. Tell the story of how you would like it to be. Just like my client started telling the story of her noticing him. Right? It was no longer him noticing her and not noticing him. It was him noticing her and noticing him. I hope that's clear. If it's not, go back earlier in the video. See all your desires, people, events, and circumstances are part of that great unity. That great unity, right? Know that you are at the center of infinity. All power, all potential, all of God is working through you as you. You are that life. Right? I am that I am. Be more open, be more curious, be more fun, be more spontaneous. In other words, be more like your source, and then you will have those anomalous experiences of bursts of energy. That's why Scripture says, be like little children. Right? That's why you can enter the kingdom. That anomalous burst of energy, because you're feeling that oneness. You're being curious, fun, spontaneous with source. Expect the unexpected. Expect the good that's yours. By your birthright, by your I amness. Intend to be absolutely unlimited. Tell the story of how you want things to be. And know that they already are in that story. That's the only thing that ever keeps it from manifesting now, is your sense of separation. You're unified with all of it. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for liking and sharing and commenting on the videos. Thank you for joining our Facebook. It's growing every day. You can find us there at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful. Those are the Be Something Wonderful ambassadors, where you can share insight and guidance and ideas with others. Also, thank you for joining us on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Kearin, and our membership channel, where we're going to have a live set. I'm going to plan another live stream on the membership channel. We'll have another live event and another video coming soon that we're working on that will be uploaded very soon. Creatives, with great love, with great light and infinite gratitude, this is Tom with Be Something Wonderful in the studios in Las Vegas. We'll see you soon.